Hi, everybody. I'm Michael Ogden, executive editor with the Credit Union Times. Today, we are talking with Marvin Umholtz. He is the president and CEO of Umholtz Strategic Planning and Consulting Services. We have him on here with us because of the recent ruling of the CFPB being an unconstitutional organization as far as how it's set up. And also talking a little bit about the ruling that CFPB then hours later came down on Navy Federal Credit Union. So Marvin, I've been reading a lot about you in the years previous to now. You have been quite outspoken against the CFPB, or at least some of the ways that they function. What is your reaction to the unconstitutional ruling that came down from the U.S. District Courts?
Well, I was pleased to see it because it's at least a beginning. And although it is a very narrow ruling that the court gave,
Yeah.
and the remedy is also very narrow, and that is striking some language in the DoddFrank Act that makes the CFPB director more accountable to the President of the United States.
So it turns it more political.
Well, yes, and in the sense that the president doesn't need cause anymore to remove the director.
So
And
what did you take away from that? It sounds like again you're in favor of this particular ruling. What do you
right,
think this means then for our credit union friends out there?
well, it could provide some opportunities, perhaps in the lame duck session, or even in terms of the 2017 Congress,
Hmm.
to make some more significant changes to the CFPB's organizational structure, like a commission.
Right.
It won't automatically do that, and a lot of it depends on the results from the elections, what happens in the U.S. House, what happens in the U.S. Senate, and again, what happens to the executive branch.
Okay.
Um,
So you're again. It sounds like you are in favor of this particular ruling. Was this a ruling that was too late in coming, or was this pretty predictable for you?
well, the judicial process always moves slowly. You never know when it's going to produce an outcome,
Right.
and then it could be a negative outcome as
Mhm.
well as a positive one. This is most welcome. I don't think we want to make too big of a deal out of it.
How
Um,
so?
game. Well, it's not going to save anybody overnight. It's just a chink in the armor of the CFPB at this stage of the game, and they can appeal it either to the full panel there in the DC District Appeals Court
Yep.
or to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they might do that.
So the ramifications to go on down that road, the ramifications we've been reading about from our legal experts, they don't know what this means just yet for all of these particular rulings. Wells Fargo, for instance, that came down not long ago, that gigantic and really traumatic ruling that we saw with Wells Fargo, and then just hours later, yesterday, after being ruled unconstitutional, the CFPB hands down 28 million in penalties against our largest credit union, Navy Federal. What do you make of these two major news items revolving around CFPB?
There are a lot of different angles to it. First, we have to remember that the CFPB operates uh, much like a thuggish bully, and they use reputation risk to get all these organizations, banks, credit unions, and other financial organizations to agree through consent orders to these penalties without agreeing that they did any wrong.
So you think to pause right there for a second, with the thuggish bully comment and agreeing, like you were just stating, do you think Navy Federal was possibly bullied into this corner, or do you think Navy Federal really did some shady practices?
Um, I think Navy has to speak for itself, but it's doubtful that uh, the Navy did any shady practices. To me, they were collecting on loans that were made that went bad.
Right.
And whether they were 100% pure, I don't know. It's hard to be 100% pure, and that's part of the dilemma when you a bully of an agency that's out there expecting compliance to be 100% pure. They can pick on anybody they want to.
And you feel like they did with Navy?
Well, it's quite likely, but in my view, they are ideologically anti-business and anti-financial services organizations, banks, credit unions, whatever. One of the biggest ramifications, I think, of Navy Federal Credit Union being the object of this consent order is that it casts out the window any hope of being exempted as a credit union, any type of credit union. And it's been a lobbying angle that the National Trade Associations have tried to push. The CFPB is not going to do that. I think they just proved that they're not going to give credit unions a pass at all. If the biggest credit union in the country can't pass the compliance test, who can?
Marvin Umholtz, again, President and CEO of Umholtz Strategic Planning and Consulting Services. Marvin, I do appreciate your time and your kind of reaction and thought process through some of this really kind of confusing last 24 hours that we've had watching these rulings being handed down. If people do want to get in touch with Marvin, you can at marvin.umholtz@comcast.net. You can email him right there. He's also over on LinkedIn. Marvin, I do appreciate your time and your comments and your straightforward way of explaining some of this for our audience. Marvin, have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you.